Ladies, let me tell you something we all know deep down but don't always talk about. There's a deep aching when you feel like you're not being heard. It's that quiet yet profound pain that sits in your chest day after day. You speak, you try, but no one listens. And the worst part, sometimes you start to wonder if your voice even matters at all. But let me tell you something, you are not invisible. Your voice matters. And I am here today to remind you of that. But the truth is, when you're not heard, it's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of the people who aren't listening. It's a reflection of a system that has too long ignored the quiet strength, the wisdom and the beauty of what you have to offer. And let me tell you, the most powerful thing you can do in this world is speak your truth. When you speak your truth, when you share what's inside of you, you create the space for others to do the same. And when we all start speaking, listening, and truly hearing each other, we create a world where no one has to feel invisible. But it's not just on the world to change, it's on us too. We must be conscious of how we listen, how we show up when others speak. Are we giving them space? Are we really hearing them? Or are we too quick to interrupt, to dismiss, or to silence? I challenge each of us, myself included, to listen deeply, to listen with our hearts, to give the gift of true presence to those around us, especially the women who may not feel like anyone is hearing them. We must remember the power of being heard is immeasurable. It's about more than just listening. It's about validating someone's experience. It's about saying, I see you, I hear you, and what you're saying matters. So I encourage you to use your voice. Stand up for yourself. Speak your truth, even if it shakes the room. Let your voice be the catalyst for change, not just for you, but for every woman who feels like they've been lost in the noise. And when you feel unheard, when you feel unseen, know this: you are worthy of being listened to. You are worthy of being listened to. You are worthy of being heard. Don't let the silence of others drown out your worth. Your voice has power. We are all here, and we are all in this together. So let's lift each other up. Let's create spaces where we can speak freely and where others too will feel heard, because when we are heard, we begin to heal. And when we heal, we transform. Empathy and understanding are the foundation of any meaningful connection between people. It's not just about hearing words, it's about feeling the emotions behind those words and acknowledging them. Too often we rush to respond or offer solutions, but true empathy requires us to pause and step into someone else's shoes to fully experience their world, if only for a moment. It means setting aside our own biases, judgments, and distractions, and creating a space where the other person can feel safe to express themselves without fear of being misunderstood or dismissed. When someone feels truly heard, they experience a deep sense of validation, like they matter in this world. Understanding is not about agreeing with everything someone says, but about honoring their perspective and recognizing that their experience is real, even if it's different from our own. It's the ability to listen actively, with an open heart, without interrupting or rushing to provide answers. Often, what people need most when they share their pain or confusion is not advice, but simply to feel seen and understood. The act of listening, of holding space for someone, speaks volumes and says, you are important, and your feelings are valid. This kind of empathy not only strengthens our relationships, but also builds a foundation of trust and compassion that allows us to connect on a deeper level. It's this level of understanding that can be the turning point in someone's life, when they finally feel that they are not alone in their struggles and that their voice truly matters. The struggle of feeling invisible is one of the most isolating experiences a person can go through. It's like walking through a crowd, surrounded by people, yet feeling utterly alone, as if no one sees you or acknowledges your presence. For many, especially women, this invisibility is a silent battle, one that is often unspoken and misunderstood. It can happen in the smallest moments, like being overlooked in a conversation or passed over for an opportunity, but its impact can be profound. Over time, the weight of invisibility can erode a person's self-worth, making them question whether they have any value at all. What makes this struggle so difficult is that it's not always overt. It's not like someone is actively ignoring you. Instead, it's the constant, subtle dismissals, the unspoken assumption, that your voice doesn't matter, or that your contributions are less significant than others. These small, everyday moments of being overlooked accumulate, and they create a narrative in your mind that you're not worthy of attention or respect. The frustration of being ignored is compounded by the feeling that no matter how hard you try to be seen, to make your mark, you're just invisible. This invisibility isn't just external, it's internalized. It becomes a part of how you see yourself. When you're not heard or acknowledged, you begin to doubt your own worth and your ability to impact the world. You might start to withdraw, retreating from opportunities to speak up or share your ideas because you've learned that no one is really listening anyway. The emotional toll of feeling invisible is heavy. It can lead to feelings of loneliness, resentment, and even hopelessness. You begin to wonder if you'll ever be seen for who you truly are, or if you're destined to be forgotten. What makes this even more painful is that it often happens in places that should offer support and validation, such as relationships, workplaces, or communities. The people around you, those you trust, are sometimes the very ones who fail to acknowledge your needs and contributions, further deepening the sense of isolation. It's a kind of silence that is almost more painful than any harsh words could be, because it's the quiet of being overlooked, not even worthy of a response or a glance. But even in this struggle, there is a lesson. The pain of feeling invisible can also be a catalyst for transformation. It can drive a person to seek out spaces where they can be seen, where their voice can be heard, and where they can reclaim their sense of self-worth. It can inspire them to find ways to make themselves visible, not for the approval of others, but for the affirmation of their own existence. In time, they realize that while the world may not always see them, they have the power to see themselves. And that in itself is a revolutionary act. Social and cultural barriers play a significant role in the silence that many women experience, shaping their ability to be heard and valued. These barriers are deeply ingrained in the fabric of our societies, often passed down through generations, and can manifest in both overt and subtle ways. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to accept certain roles based on gender, race, class, and cultural expectations. These roles often come with implicit limitations on how we are expected to speak, act, and exist in the world. In many cultures, women are socialized to be quiet, compliant, and self-sacrificial. They are taught to take care of others, to serve, and to prioritize the needs of their families, often at the expense of their own voices and needs. When a woman speaks up, whether to express her opinion, assert her rights, or ask for what she deserves, she can be met with resistance, criticism, or even hostility. In some cases, speaking out is seen as a threat to the status quo, a challenge to the power dynamics that have been in place for centuries. This leads many women to internalize the message that their voices are not as important as those around them, or that their opinions don't carry the same weight. Beyond gender, cultural norms can also contribute to this silencing effect. In certain communities, there may be additional layers of expectation around the ways people are allowed to express themselves. For example, women from minority or immigrant backgrounds might face an added challenge when their cultural identities clash with the dominant societal values. These women may feel torn between honoring their cultural traditions and navigating a world that expects them to conform to more Western ideals of individuality and self-expression. The pressure to conform can lead them to suppress their true selves, further compounding the feeling of invisibility. Moreover, social barriers such as systemic inequality and discrimination can create environments where certain voices are simply not given space to be heard. In workplaces, for example, women, especially women of color, often passed over for promotions, excluded from important conversations, or dismissed in favor of their male counterparts. This unequal treatment reinforces the idea that their contributions are less valuable or less legitimate, leaving them feeling as though they are constantly fighting for their place at the table. These barriers, though less visible, are incredibly powerful, shaping how women see their worth and how they are treated by society at large. Cultural and social expectations also extend to how women are perceived when they do speak up. A woman who asserts herself may be labeled as aggressive, bossy, or difficult, while a man displaying the same behavior may be seen as strong or authoritative. This double standard further discourages women from expressing themselves, as they fear the consequences of being labeled or punished for speaking their truth. In many cultures, women are often expected to be silent, modest, and agreeable, which can prevent them from fully participating in conversations and claiming their space in both public and private spheres. The barriers are not just external, they shape our internal narratives as well. Women who grow up surrounded by these expectations may begin to believe that their voices aren't worthy of being heard. They may question whether they deserve a seat at the table, whether their ideas are important, or whether anyone will listen. These social and cultural norms, deeply rooted in history, create an environment where silence is seen as acceptable, and speaking up becomes an act of rebellion. However, recognizing these barriers is the first step in breaking them down. When we challenge these cultural and social norms, we begin to pave the way for change. By supporting women in finding their voice, by validating their experiences, and by creating spaces where all voices are welcome, we can begin to dismantle the systems that keep women feeling invisible. It is only through collective awareness and action that we can create a world where women no longer feel pressured to be silent, where their words are valued, and where their voices are finally heard. The power of a listening ear cannot be overstated. In a world that is constantly moving, where everyone seems to be rushing to make their point, to be heard, to be understood, the act of simply listening has become a rare and deeply powerful gift. When someone truly listens to you, it's as if the weight of your thoughts, your feelings, and your experiences are finally acknowledged. There is a profound sense of relief that comes from knowing that someone is there to hear you without interruption, without judgment, and without the need to immediately fix things. In that space of being fully listened to, you feel seen in a way that words alone cannot express. It is a moment of connection that transcends conversation. Listening goes beyond hearing words. It's about being present with the other person. It's about attuning yourself to the subtle emotions behind what's being said, recognizing the unspoken, and holding that space with empathy. A truly good listener does not just passively absorb information, they engage with it, responding with understanding and compassion. They make the other person feel valued, like their perspective matters. And in a world where so many voices are overlooked or dismissed, the ability to listen with presence and intention can be transformational. For those who often feel unheard or invisible, the simple act of being listened to can be a life-changing experience. It can break down the walls of isolation, offering a sense of belonging and affirmation that is often missing. Many women, for instance, face a lifetime of being talked over or silenced, especially in spaces where their voices are marginalized. But when someone takes the time to truly listen, it creates a powerful shift in the dynamic. The listener not only acknowledges what is being said, but also the person saying it. This validation can ignite a sense of self-worth and empowerment, reminding the speaker that their thoughts, their feelings, and their experiences are worthy of respect. The beauty of listening is that it doesn't require grand gestures. It doesn't require fixing problems or offering solutions. Sometimes all a person needs is to be heard, to have their pain or joy acknowledged, to feel understood without the pressure to perform or be anything other than what they are in that moment. A listening ear gives people permission to be vulnerable, to express their truth, and to experience the catharsis that comes from sharing what's inside. This release can be healing, as it allows emotions to surface and be processed in a safe, accepting environment. Listening also fosters trust. When someone listens to you deeply, it shows that they care about your well-being, that your thoughts matter enough to be given their full attention. This builds a foundation of trust and emotional intimacy that is essential for any healthy relationship, whether personal or professional. People are more likely to open up, to share their true selves when they know they are being heard. It encourages deeper conversations, richer connections, and more authentic relationships. In fact, the power of listening extends far beyond the immediate moment. When someone takes the time to listen to us, it can have a lasting impact on our sense of self and our ability to relate to others. It helps us feel less alone in the world, more understood, and more connected to the people around us. And when we experience this kind of deep listening, we are often inspired to do the same for others. The ripple effect of listening, of creating spaces where people feel heard and seen, can transform communities, workplaces, and families. In a world that is often overwhelmed by noise and distraction, the act of listening stands as a simple yet profound way to make a difference. It's a way to heal, to build, to empower. By offering a listening ear, we remind each other that we are not alone, that we matter, and that our voices are worth hearing. The power of a listening ear is not just in the act itself, but in the transformation it sparks in the hearts of those who feel seen for the first time. It is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful tools for connection and change that we have. Personal accountability and communication is about taking full responsibility for how we interact with others, how we listen, and how we express ourselves. It's recognizing that communication is a two-way street. It's not just about what we say, but also how we make others feel when we speak, listen, or engage in conversation. Accountability and communication means we are aware of the impact of our words, tone, body language, and actions on those around us, and we take responsibility for cultivating an environment of respect, clarity, and understanding. Often we think of communication simply as a way to convey our thoughts and ideas, but it's so much more than that. It's a reflection of who we are, what we value, and how we relate to others. Personal accountability requires us to be intentional about our words and actions, ensuring that we communicate with honesty, respect, and kindness. It means recognizing that our own assumptions, biases, and emotions can influence the way we communicate, and therefore being mindful of how those factors affect our interactions. When we hold ourselves accountable, we ensure that we are not just speaking for the sake of speaking, but that we are engaging in meaningful dialogue that invites connection and understanding. A key aspect of personal accountability and communication is owning the responsibility to listen actively and with intention. We cannot communicate effectively if we are only focused on waiting for our turn to speak. True accountability requires that we listen with empathy and openness without judgment, and that we make room for others to express themselves fully. This means putting aside distractions, resisting the urge to interrupt, and giving our full attention to the person speaking. By doing so, we send a powerful message that we value their perspective and are willing to engage with them on a deeper level. Equally important is the need to speak with authenticity and integrity. It's easy to fall into the trap of saying what we think others want to hear, or of suppressing our true feelings to avoid conflict or discomfort. But this only leads to miscommunication, frustration, and disconnection. When we are accountable in our communication, we speak our truth mindfully, respectfully, but truthfully. This doesn't mean we should be harsh or inconsiderate, but it does mean that we should avoid hiding behind polite words or masking our emotions. Authenticity fosters trust and mutual respect, and it allows both parties to have an honest exchange that moves beyond surface-level conversation. Personal accountability also requires us to be willing to reflect on our communication and to make adjustments when necessary. It means acknowledging when we've miscommunicated, when we've medicated, when we've been misunderstood, or when we've hurt someone unintentionally. It takes courage to admit when we've made a mistake, but doing so allows for growth and strengthens our relationships. Being accountable means that we don't shy away from difficult conversations or uncomfortable truths. Instead, we face them head-on with a willingness to learn and improve. In moments of conflict or misunderstanding, personal accountability and communication means we take the time to understand what went wrong, rather than immediately casting blame or becoming defensive. It means being open to feedback, owning our part in the conversation, and being willing to correct course when necessary. We learn to pause, reflect, and adjust our approach rather than allowing our egos or emotions to guide us. Ultimately, personal accountability and communication is about cultivating a mindset that values clarity, respect, and connection. It's about seeing communication as a shared responsibility where both parties are equally invested in creating a space for honest, open, and empathetic exchange. When we hold ourselves accountable for how we communicate, we create stronger bonds, foster deeper understanding, and build trust with the people we interact with. We acknowledge that how we speak to others, how we listen, and how we engage in conversation plays a powerful role in shaping our relationships in the world around us. The impact of not being heard can be deeply profound, affecting a person's emotional well-being, sense of self-worth, and overall mental health. When someone consistently feels like their voice is ignored or disregarded, it creates a silent but heavy burden that builds over time. It's not just about the frustration of having your words go unnoticed, it's the psychological toll it takes when you feel that your thoughts, feelings, and contributions are not valued. This sense of being unheard can lead to feelings of insignificance, as though your existence in some way is being minimized or erased. When someone is not heard, they may begin to internalize the belief that they have no right to speak or that their opinions are unimportant. This erodes their self-esteem and can lead to a loss of confidence in expressing themselves, even in situations where they should have a voice. Over time, the repeated experience of being ignored or invalidated can leave a person feeling invisible, unimportant, and disconnected from those around them. It's like living in a world where everyone else's voices echo while yours fades into silence, leaving you to question whether you truly matter at all. The effects of not being heard can also manifest physically, as the stress and frustration of feeling ignored take a toll on one's health. Chronic stress, anxiety, and depression are common consequences of being in environments where one's voice is dismissed or invalidated. The emotional strain of feeling unheard often results in a sense of isolation, which in turn can lead to withdrawal from social situations, further compounding the sense of loneliness and disconnection. The longer someone experiences this silencing, the deeper the emotional scars can become, leaving them with an enduring sense of helplessness or defeat. Another significant impact of not being heard is the stifling of growth and progress. When a person is not given the space to speak up or express their needs, desires, or concerns, their ability to contribute meaningfully to relationships or work environments diminishes. Whether it's in a personal relationship, a professional setting, or even in a broader social context, the failure to listen prevents collaboration, innovation, and problem solving. It can create a dynamic where certain voices, often those who are already marginalized, are continually silenced, which further entrenches inequality and hinders progress. Without an open dialogue where everyone's input is respected, critical ideas are missed, and potential is wasted. The damage done by being unheard is not just about the individual, it ripples outward, affecting relationships, communities, and even entire systems. When people are not heard, trust is broken. If someone feels that no one listens to them, they may begin to feel distrustful of others, skeptical about their ability to communicate effectively, and ultimately reluctant to engage with others. This erodes the foundation of healthy relationships, whether personal or professional, and creates barriers to connection. Misunderstandings flourish in environments where people are afraid to speak up or where they feel that their contributions won't be acknowledged, leading to unnecessary conflict and division. In extreme cases, the emotional and psychological effects of not being heard can lead to feelings of worthlessness and despair. People who feel ignored or invisible may start to question their value and whether they have any place in the world at all. This can lead to a cycle of self-doubt, anxiety, and even depression, as they begin to feel that their presence doesn't matter. The inability to share one's truth and be heard can be soul-crushing, leaving a person feeling disconnected from themselves and others, unsure of how to find their place or regain their sense of purpose. However, the impact of not being heard can be mitigated with awareness and action. When someone finally listens, truly listens, to a person who has long been ignored, the difference is palpable. It's not just about hearing their words, it's about offering them validation, support, and understanding. The simple act of being heard can be healing, reaffirming a person's dignity and worth, and allowing them to feel seen in a way that can reignite their self-confidence and sense of belonging. By listening, we not only help others feel heard, but we also help them rediscover their voice. And that, in turn, can inspire a deeper connection and a more compassionate world for all. Self-advocacy and empowerment also involve the courage to educate oneself and to take control of one's own narrative. It's not simply about voicing your needs, but also about understanding your rights and responsibilities in various situations. Whether it's in the workplace, in healthcare, or in personal relationships, knowledge is power. The more informed we are about our options, the better equipped we are to advocate for ourselves in ways that are thoughtful, strategic, and effective. For those who have historically been marginalized or excluded, whether because of their race, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or any other factor, inclusive spaces are vital for breaking down the barriers that prevent them from fully participating in society. These individuals often face systemic inequalities that can make it difficult to find places where they feel truly seen and valued. Inclusive spaces are a corrective force, offering a safe environment where everyone can access the same opportunities and resources. In such spaces, people are not just accommodated, but actively supported and uplifted, with their unique needs and experiences considered in ways that promote equality and social justice. One of the key components of inclusive spaces is that they allow people to bring their full selves to the table. This means that people are encouraged to express their identities, cultures, and values without fear of judgment or exclusion. In a truly inclusive environment, differences in race, gender, age, sexual identity, and other characteristics are not only accepted, but they are woven into the fabric of the community or organization. This creates a richness and depth of experience that fosters greater understanding and connection among people from all walks of life. It challenges stereotypes and prejudices, offering a space for individuals to interact with others in a way that transcends surface-level differences and taps into the shared humanity that connects us all. Moreover, inclusivity is not just about the people who are part of the space, but also the broader systems and structures that support it. Institutions, businesses, and communities must examine their practices, policies, and systems to ensure that they are not inadvertently perpetuating exclusion or discrimination. This requires a commitment to dismantling inequities and building systems that provide equal access and opportunities for all. Whether it's through hiring practices, educational opportunities, healthcare access, or social services, the goal should be to create systems that are intentionally inclusive so that all individuals can thrive. The need for inclusive spaces is especially urgent in a world that is becoming increasingly global and interconnected. We live in a time where cultural, social, and economic borders are more fluid than ever before, and the importance of fostering understanding, respect, and cooperation among diverse groups is paramount. Inclusive spaces offer the potential to bridge divides, to foster solidarity, and to create a world where everyone can thrive. They hold the promise of a future where no one is left behind, where every voice is valued, and where diversity is seen as a strength rather than a source of division. Ultimately, inclusive spaces are not just about the immediate benefits they provide to individuals, they are the building blocks for a more just, equitable, and compassionate society. By creating environments that honor diversity and foster inclusion, we create opportunities for connection, growth, and healing. We ensure that no one has to suffer the pain of feeling invisible, ignored, or excluded. We empower individuals to take their place in the world, confident that they belong and that their contributions matter. Inclusive spaces are essential not only for the well-being of individuals, but also for the collective progress of society as a whole. Breaking the silence is a powerful and transformative act, one that involves lifting the veil of secrecy, shame, or fear that keeps important truths hidden. It is about speaking out against injustices, acknowledging painful realities, and making the invisible visible. Silence can be a form of protection, a way to avoid confrontation, or an attempt to preserve peace. But when silence is used to suppress voices or silence stories, it becomes harmful. Breaking the silence is not just about speaking up, it's about creating space for those who have been silenced to finally be heard and recognized. For many, silence is something they've been conditioned to accept, whether due to societal norms, family dynamics, or cultural expectations. It may be the result of fear of retribution, fear of being judged, or fear of being dismissed. Yet the act of breaking the silence is often an essential first step in healing and growth. It is the moment when individuals confront the things they have been avoiding or suffering through in silence. It's when the truth is revealed and the weight of hidden experiences is brought into the light. The silence surrounding issues like abuse, trauma, discrimination, and mental health can be incredibly damaging. When people are not allowed to speak about their struggles, their pain is often compounded by the isolation that comes with silence. Silence can deepen feelings of shame, reinforce stigma, and perpetuate cycles of suffering. It tells people that their experiences are not worthy of discussion or validation, which can lead to a sense of powerlessness and invisibility. Breaking the silence, however, is an act of reclaiming agency and demanding respect. It is saying that your story matters and that you will not allow fear or shame to control your narrative. In many cases, breaking the silence involves confronting deep-seated societal issues that are often uncomfortable, divisive, or difficult to discuss. Whether it's racial injustice, gender inequality, or economic disparities, speaking out about these issues is necessary to effect change. For years, many individuals and communities have lived with the heavy burden of silence, too often silenced by systems of power that seek to maintain the status quo. The voices of marginalized groups, whether based on race, gender, sexuality, or disability, have been systematically overlooked or suppressed. Breaking the silence is a means of dismantling these systems of oppression and demanding a more just and equitable world. When individuals or groups begin to break the silence, it creates a ripple effect that encourages others to do the same. It shows others who are suffering in silence that they are not alone, that there is a community of support ready to listen, understand, and take action. Breaking the silence allows people to share their stories, to find solidarity with others who have similar experiences, and to build movements that challenge injustice. The courage of one person to speak out can inspire a wave of others to do the same, ultimately leading to collective empowerment and social change. It's important to recognize that breaking the silence is not always easy. It can be an act of immense vulnerability, especially when the topic is something deeply personal or painful. There are risks involved, risks of backlash, rejection, or being misunderstood. Yet it is often in these moments of vulnerability that profound transformation occurs. When people find the courage to speak out, they often experience a sense of liberation and release. The act of sharing one's truth, no matter how difficult, can be a form of personal catharsis. It allows individuals to stop carrying their burdens in silence and begin to heal. Breaking the silence also plays a critical role in raising awareness and shifting societal perspectives. It can open doors for conversations that have long been avoided or ignored. By addressing uncomfortable topics head-on, it forces society to confront its flaws and confront the systems that perpetuate harm. The more we talk about things like racism, sexual harassment, and mental health, the more these issues move out of the shadows and into the forefront of public consciousness. This shift in awareness is the first step toward meaningful change, as it challenges old narratives and empowers people to work toward solutions. While breaking the silence is often necessary to bring about change, it is equally important that we listen when others break their silence. Creating a culture where people feel safe to speak out requires not only the courage to share one's own experiences, but also the willingness to listen to the stories of others. Listening with empathy, respect, and openness is essential in ensuring that the act of breaking the silence is not in vain. It is through listening, understanding, and taking action that we can begin to dismantle the structures of power that have long kept these conversations hidden. In many ways, breaking the silence is an act of reclaiming power. It is about stepping into one's voice and using it to challenge the forces that have worked to keep people quiet. It is an assertion of dignity and a refusal to accept the status quo. In the face of injustice, silence can be a tool of oppression, but breaking it allows individuals and communities to rise up to demand accountability and to create a future where their voices are no longer ignored. Ultimately, breaking the silence is a transformative process. It can be deeply uncomfortable, even painful, but it is also liberating. It opens up new possibilities for connection, healing, and justice. It allows people to move from isolation to solidarity, from suffering in silence to finding strength in their voices. By breaking the silence, we create a world where truth is valued, where vulnerability is embraced, and where every person has the opportunity to be heard. Hope and change are intertwined, driving forces that shape the course of individual lives, communities, and societies at large. Hope is the belief that things can get better, that despite the challenges, there is potential for growth, renewal, and transformation. It's the light that keeps us moving forward, even when the path ahead seems uncertain or daunting. Hope is not just wishful thinking, it is the conviction that our efforts, however small, can make a difference and that a brighter future is within reach. Change, on the other hand, is the manifestation of that hope, a tangible shift that takes place in response to our dreams, actions, and desires for something better. It is the process of transformation that happens when we decide to challenge the status quo and create a new reality. Change is rarely easy. It requires effort, perseverance, and often a willingness to step into the unknown. Change is messy, it doesn't happen overnight, and it's seldom linear. There are setbacks, obstacles, and moments of doubt along the way. However, change is also a necessary part of growth. It is through change that we evolve, learn, and improve, both as individuals and as a collective society. Whether it's a personal transformation or a societal shift, change is what brings progress, new opportunities, and new ways of thinking that challenge outdated norms and beliefs. Hope fuels this change. Without hope, the desire for change can easily fade, lost in the face of adversity. But when hope is present, it ignites the spark that keeps us striving for something better. It pushes us to act, to take steps, however small, toward the realization of our goals. Hope inspires us to keep going even when the odds seem stacked against us, reminding us that our actions matter, that we have the power to shape our futures. In times of crisis, hope can be a lifeline, helping us navigate through uncertainty and emerge on the other side with a renewed sense of purpose. Hope and change are not only personal, they are collective forces that, when united, can bring about sweeping transformations. Social movements, revolutions, and reforms have been born from a shared hope for a better world, a world where injustice is addressed, where equality is achieved, and where all people have the opportunity to thrive. The civil rights movement, for example, was driven by the hope of a more just society, and the change it sparked continues to shape the course of history. Similarly, movements for gender equality, LGBTQ rights, and environmental sustainability are rooted in the belief that change is not only possible but necessary. These movements remind us that change is not something that happens on its own, it is something we actively create through our collective action, fueled by the hope that we can make a difference. Change often requires sacrifice and resilience. It demands that we confront uncomfortable truths, question old beliefs, and push through moments of difficulty and resistance. But it is precisely in these moments of challenge that hope becomes most powerful. Hope is what sustains us when the journey is long and the road is hard. It is the belief that even when things seem at their worst, there is the potential for something better. When we hold on to hope, we open ourselves up to the possibility that change is not only inevitable, but also essential for progress. Hope and change are also deeply interconnected with healing. Whether it's the healing of a person who has endured trauma or the healing of a society torn apart by division and strife, hope is what allows us to believe in the possibility of recovery and reconciliation. Healing doesn't happen instantly, but hope provides the foundation for the necessary steps toward renewal. It is the belief that things can improve, that wounds can heal, and that a better future is waiting to be built. On a personal level, hope and change empower individuals to take control of their own destinies. It gives people the courage to dream bigger, to push past their limitations, and to pursue goals that once seemed out of reach. Hope transforms self-doubt into determination and turns obstacles into opportunities for growth. Change driven by hope allows individuals to break free from the patterns that have held them back. Whether those patterns are rooted in fear, self-limiting beliefs, or external circumstances, with hope in their hearts, people can overcome incredible odds, creating new paths for themselves and those around them. At a societal level, hope and change are the engines of progress. It is through the collective hope of individuals, communities, and movements that we confront and challenge systemic issues like poverty, racism, and inequality. Change is possible only when people dare to hope for something different, when they come together with a shared vision for a future that includes everyone. The challenges we face as a society may seem overwhelming, but hope gives us the strength to keep fighting, to keep working toward a world that is more just compassionate and sustainable. It reminds us that even in the darkest times, change is still possible, and it is worth striving for. In the end, hope and change are inseparable. Hope is the vision of a better tomorrow, and change is the means by which we bring that vision to life. Together, they create the momentum needed to overcome obstacles, challenge injustice, and create the world we want to live in. Hope gives us the courage to pursue change, and change, in turn, reaffirms the power of hope. Through hope and change, we are reminded that no matter how difficult the journey may be, the future is full of possibility. And it is through our collective efforts, driven by hope, that we can transform not only our own lives, but the world around us.